2021. What a year. 2020, what a year. My name is Brandon Smith. I am the Executive Director of the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program. We go by FFRP, peep the logo. We're a nonprofit organization that helps people formerly or currently incarcerated in California's fire camps to obtain gainful employment once they come home. I'm appreciative to talk to you all in this capstone class. And I'm going to just share a little bit about my experiences, and then we can go have a conversation from there. All right. So I remember being lost in the wilderness, looking for a solution until I realized that I was the actual solution. It was April of 2012. I found myself in a very, very bad situation. I was in the LA County Jail. It was my 9th time being incarcerated within 6 years. I felt completely lost. I remember being in a dorm of 120 people, and there was this makeshift church service. And I'm sitting in the back of the church service, and I'm just crying my heart out. When an older brother, he comes and he talks to me and he says, "Hey man, you all right? Why don't you come and sit with me during lunch?" So I go sit with him, we go watch the news, we start talking about life. And he, at the end of the conversation, he ends up giving me a necklace that he ended up making out of a plastic sandwich bag. And he said, "Brother, if you want it, it will be all right. Like, you can find a way out of the wilderness. Don't worry, it's gonna be all right." And it was in that moment, being lost in the wilderness, that I decided to myself that, you know what, like, I am going to find a way out of this situation. Months later, I would end up in prison with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, also known as CDCR. I was at Delano State Prison in a small cell, still looking for answers, when I got a knock on the door, and it was a prison counselor. And she said, "Hey, Smith, I'm wondering if you would be interested in going to fire camp." I said, "What, fire camp? What you talking about?" She said, "Well, you would go out there and you would go help out the firefighters to go put out fires." My response was, no, thank you. I'm cool. I do not want to go do this. I remember as a child, like, watching Backdraft and like telling my mom, like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I do not want to be a firefighter. I'm cool off that whole get down. So I told the lady no. But when I was talking to different people who were in the prison and who had gone to fire camp before, they're like, "Look, dude, you're making 30 cents an hour right now. You can go out there and go make $1.50 a day. Plus, when you go on a fire, you could go make $1 an hour. Bro, if you're on a fire, you can go make $26 a day for 2 weeks." That was a lot of money being incarcerated. I said, okay. They said, "Look, man, it's like you're in like a little camp, and basically like you're working with the firefighters, so they have their own private cooks. So you don't have to go eat this prison food." I said, "Oh, for real?" They're like, "Yeah, bro. Like, when you get over there, you'll eat steaks and like burgers and like real food. People will cook that." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." And then they said, "Look, man, there are so many camps in California. You can go out there and be close to your family." Now, I'm from the LA County area. I'm from Altadena, California. Delano State Prison is in Central California. I would say I was probably about 4 or 5 hours away from my family. And they were already telling me, like, "I love you, but it's going to be hard for us to come see you all the time." And so like, what? Like I can literally be like 45 minutes away from my family and they can come see me every weekend. They're like, yeah, bro, they can see you every weekend. They can bring you some food. Y'all can barbecue. It's like you're at the park. You know, you're still in your oranges and your prison gear, but it's like you're at the park and like you can go push your kid on the swing. I had a daughter. How old was Reese at that point in time? Lord, forgive me. 2012. She was 2 years old. I'm like, I can really go push my daughter on the swing? Okay, bet. Let's go do it. Now, I went to Cal. So I wasn't, I majored in ISF and Black Studies, or interdisciplinary studies. And so like, I was used to using my mind. I used to work, as a school teacher at one point in time. Like I'm good with, I remember having a conversation with PETA on Sproul Hall, like, oh, you can't equate, the struggles of Black people to animals, like all kind of stuff. So like, I was in that space. So like, I was never like a real physical dude. And so I ended up going to firefighter training. I had to get myself in shape. Like I had to go out here and like start to run, start to go hike. They put me in firefighting classes. Like it was at that point that I decided that, you know what, I want to go be closer to my family. I want to go make this happen. All right, fine, let me go do it. A couple of months later, I ended up as a firefighter now, inmate firefighter Smith, AF 7162 at Batista Conservation Camp. When you're in fire camp, you go to work every day. And so it's not just that you work in fires. When you're in fire camp, you're here for all hazard response. So we were responding to floods, search and rescue. While I was in prison, I helped to build a baseball field for children. I helped to go build a golf course. We did grade projects, fuels reduction projects. There is a need in some capacity for responsible forest thinning. So we were the only folks out here doing forest thinning. And we would be working every day from 8 to 5. And if a fire happened, then we would go there. But anyway, I'm doing that work. I'm on the grade project. I'm over here on the side of the freeway helping out Caltrans to trim the freeways of vegetation and fuel. And I haven't gone on a fire yet. And I'm still really, really scared. And I remember hearing on the radio, the 3-tone system, beep, beep, beep. Okay, crew 1, helicopter 1, engine 1, we need you to go respond to this spot in Idlewild to this fire. You all go ahead. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm on crew 2. I'm like, please don't let them call crew 2. Please don't let them call crew 2. Beep, beep, beep. I need crew 2, helicopter 2, engine 2 to go respond to this fire in Idlewild. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. I say a prayer. Lord, please save me. Please save me. I don't know what's about to happen. We pull out to the fire, my adrenaline races, and I swear to you, it looked just like the Avengers. Like when they was defeating Thanos, like everybody was out here. I was out here with my fire crew. The professional engine is over there. The helicopters are over here. We got the police and the sheriff creating perimeters and evacuating people. We come up with a plan. We go attack. Go spend 23 hours on a fire straight, working, sweating, chainsaws, getting it. The water engines and the tenders come behind us with the hose and they hosing everything out. Man, I swear to you, I was so nervous. But once I came off that fire line, I knew that I can go do it. I remember coming home, like in the buggy in our fire truck, like looking at all of the signs and the people waving flags saying like, thank you, firefighters. Thank you, firefighters. Thank you, firefighters. I bowed my head at that moment. I thank God because I realized that I had something to do with that. No longer is there a situation and I'm living in this stigma of a convicted felon in prison where people have all of these assumptions about who I am. Even though they know I'm incarcerated, they're still thanking me because on that fire, what we realized was that we saved a town of 10,000 people. Everybody was out there saying, good looking out. Thank you. Thank you. I'm like, wow, I have a meaning. I have a purpose. It was at that moment that I decided I wanted to go be a firefighter. I decided that was going to be my path out of the wilderness. Man, I remember coming home. While I was incarcerated, I remember asking right before I paroled, I talked to all the correctional staff and I said, hey, is there any way that I can go do this when I get home? They told me, good luck. They said like, all right, like, I don't know of anybody that's done this before, but I don't know if anybody can necessarily stop you, but I don't know how to help you out. All right, I took my charge. I came home. I spent almost 2 years trying to figure it out. I ended up taking an odd job at a nonprofit. I ended up working odd jobs and end jobs and borrowing money from my family and my fiance at the time. She's now my wife. We're married with 2 kids. And like, it was a real struggle. People kept telling me no, like, I'm sorry, like, who do you think you are that you can come out here to this fire station and apply for this job? You have no training. You have no experience. I'm like, what in the world? I just spent 2.5 years fighting fires. What you mean? I went out here and took the same classes that you took. I know everything that you're talking about. I became a student of fire out here in this situation. And it was just frustrating. And so then the situation happened in 2015. Well, let me stop. 1 second. Let me stop. One of the truths and realities is that wildfires in the Western United States have continued to increase in their frequency and their severity for the past 100 years. Facts. When I got out in 2000 and when I get out, 2014, it was the worst wildfire season on record. When we started FFRP, 2018 was the worst fire season on record. Then it was 2019. Then it was just now 2020. I think there's already been like 400 fires out here in the state already in 2021. So wildfires are continuing to increase in their frequency and their severity. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One reason is climate change. You know, I'm a believer of climate change. Climate change is real. You know, folks are having, where we are, well, in the Western United States, hotter, drier, longer, quote unquote, summer seasons or dry seasons. I remember when I started as a firefighter, fire season, quote unquote, fire season would be about 4 to 6 months. Now fire season is year round. You got firefighters putting out fires on Thanksgiving and during Christmas. New Year's Day, they out there fighting fires. Anyway, so because of that, in 2015, it was very destructive. And so because of that, the state had officially run out of firefighters. So just like how you see situations where we get firefighters from like Australia, from Alaska, from Florida, from New York, from Israel, and all respect to them. But, you know, we always go out here in these situations where we're depleted of firefighters. So in 2015, how I ended up getting put on, or how I ended up getting my first fire experience professionally, was the governor at the time, Jerry Brown, declared a state of emergency. And he said, because there are no more firefighters, I'm going to loosen up the requirements for fire agencies in their hiring get down. And I will never forget, praise God for Black women. It was a Black woman. Her name is Betty Ash. She's retired now, but she was the battalion chief of the San Bernardino National Forest out of Fawnskin, which is in Big Bear. She knew my situation and my story. She called me. She said, Brendan, all right, I got an opportunity for you. You bet. Are you ready? I'm like, yes, Chief Ash, I'm ready. Ma'am, let's go. So next thing you know, I'm out there the very next day, because I done took all of my certifications and classes again. I went to a fire academy, all that. But because I was ready and I had all the training, she gave me an opportunity to go work as a volunteer firefighter. So I was working as a volunteer firefighter. What it's called is working as an AD, or paid on-call firefighter. So nowadays, whenever there's a state of emergency and there's fires out here, fire agencies, especially the U.S. Forest Service, has an opportunity to go hire people on call. For those folks who are struggling in school and looking for opportunities during the summer, I may have some opportunities for you. I actually have a connection with the Stanislaus National Forest. Look up Clady Crew 5. You can talk to me later about that. It's a very lucrative opportunity. But I got my shot. So I'm out there fighting with the firefighters. Myself and my partner, my co-founder, Royal Ramey. He and I were both incarcerated together in prison. And he and I both have the same story and experience. So on my first fire professionally, I'm out here fighting this fire in Big Bear, the lake fire. Next thing, I'm using the chainsaw. Next thing you know, I hear my name being called, Smitty, Smitty, Smitty. That's what they used to call me, Brendan Smith. They called me that. So I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? And lo and behold, I'm fighting a fire professionally. And who I see to my right is Batista Crew 2, the old camp that I was incarcerated with. I did double takes. I'm like, what in the world is going on out here? I really believe in fate, the universe. I believe in God. And I'm like, what is this? And so during our off time, during our quick break, and during the lunchtime, I went up to those folks and I was talking to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, how did you go do this? Are you serious? Like, you really did this? And like, people were amazed. Me and Royal, we were talking to him. And it was at that moment that I realized that, like, I spent 2 years after prison, like, trying to figure out a way to go do this. And this is a continuing problem. We have to find a way to go help these people out. I don't want them to go through the same situation as me, come home and go work and go grind for 2 years to go figure this out and hopefully get a chance. Because luckily I was blessed. My wife was a great support, is a great support. My grandparents, my mother, I had my family, I had my church. I had a great support system that a lot of people coming home from prison don't have. You know what I'm saying? And so because of that, I decided that because people didn't have a support system, I would be that support system. And that's where we ended up developing FFRP. And it was so interesting, like, while you're incarcerated, there's a very hard line, a very strict line about and boundaries around, like, the CEOs, the correctional staff, the fire staff, and those who are incarcerated, people who are incarcerated. So when I was on that fire eating lunch with them, like, the CEOs and the fire captains, like, gave me a handshake and gave me a hug, like, for the first time. And like, they were like, I am proud of you. Look at this. And I was like, wow, wow, wow. So anyway, we started FFRP. So I get a job professionally working in the Stanislaus National Forest. That's a couple of hours east of you all. I was working in Pinecrest, California, in the Summit Ranger District. And I was working on what's called a fire use module. It's a group of 10 people. I'm not sure how much you all are familiar with wildland firefighting, but imagine like the hot shots or a 20-person crew cut in half. And so we were a 10-man crew, fire use. So which means we were firefighters, we were forestry technicians, and we also had like surveying work and supports to go do. Actually, shout out to the person who gave me that job. His name is Alex Miyagishima. He's actually a Cal alum, go Bears. But what's interesting, he was my fire captain, but he got a degree in social work. He got an MSW. I'm like, Cap, how you got an MSW from Cal, but you a firefighter? Everybody has their own pathways. So anyway, I'm up there doing that work. And one of the things that we do with our unique team is we joined a group called the Fire Behavior Assessment Team, called FBAT. And so one of the things that we were doing is we were going out here and measuring, we were doing fuel surveys, what's that called? Brown's lines. We were going out here doing post fire assessment or moderation assessment. We jerry rigged some metal boxes on a tripod and put fire shelters, which is basically like foil around them, and set up heat trigger wires with thermocouples. And when the fire hit, like the GoPro would start. We used to record all that kind of stuff, right? So like, it was right in my lane. I was a firefighter and I was doing some science cool stuff. Like, we were out there getting it. And one of the things that I started to see during that work was like really just like how quickly like the severity of these fires were increasing, and also the condition of the forest out here. One of the things I want to shout out to Cal, and also what we had at the Stanislaus National Forest, was these experimental forests. So we got to go do different practices on like, what's the best way to forest thin? Should we specify certain trees with certain DBHs, or, you know, what invasive species are out here, all kind of stuff, you know, burning patterns. It was really cool stuff. And one of the things that I started to see was that we have a real problem here, and nobody is really doing anything about it. Because in the world of wildfires, 99.5% of the work is based on fire suppression, which is putting the fire out. There's not a lot of work being put into fire prevention, right? How can we go take a proactive stance in this role, right? And I used to talk to my captain and my assistant captain. I'm like, dude, like, what's going on here? He like, hey man, a lot of people are just in this for like, you know, the swag, like you're a firefighter, but like how many people are actually really committed to this? Like how many people are committed to like the work and the well-being of the forest, right? Like when I signed up to this work, when I decided I wanted to do this, I decided to go protect the forest so that they can go be experienced for us, the people, to protect the land and to make sure generations to come can go enjoy that and experience that, right? I'm not sure where you all stand on like environmental stances, but like, what's his name? It's like, what's it, Gilbert Puncho? Like, you know, I decided like I wasn't going to be a dude just talking about it. I was going to be somebody who made a stance in this, right? And so then we get to this precipice of all of these things and all of these places. And that's where we started the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program. I have a lived experience being incarcerated as a firefighter. I have a lived experience working professionally. Beyond the 10-man crew, I've worked on a 20-person crew. I've also worked on fire engines, you know, so I have experience out here. And then also I'm committed to the work of fire prevention. I don't want to see more people dead. I don't want to see more homes burned, right? Like, I don't want to see this getting worse and worse every year. People need to take a proactive stance in this, right? It seems like every single year in about 2 or 3 months, all we're going to talk about is the destruction of wildfires. Not commenting on people's political views, but now that we do have, you know, in addition, a new president, one of the things I was telling my wife earlier is that the news cycle is like the news don't have a lot of stuff to talk about no more, you know, whether good or bad. And so because of that, you know, they're going to be out here talking about wildfires. I tell people all the time, every single year, you're going to see a campaign or you're going to see somebody talking about California incarcerates people to go be firefighters. Wildfire season is getting worse. We say that year and year and year and year and year, but like, what do we actually do about it? So we decided to go take like a proactive stance. You know, I think about it, like I think about like this story, like from the beginning, and I talk about like how I was lost in the wilderness. And like, I remember like, you know, when the dude gave me, you know, made me the chain, I still have the chain. I wear it every day because like, I believe. Matter of fact, it's not the gold one, but let me show you, let me find it. Here we go, where's the cross? See this cross? I still got it because I believe. I decided to find a way out the wilderness. Like I really did. Like, and I decided that like a lot of times we wait for people to like make decisions for us when let's make decisions for ourselves. One of the things I pride myself on being a Cal alum is that we are innovators out here. We are critical thinkers. You know, we are folks who go solve California's problems, solve the world's problems, who go out here and help people regardless of our ideologies. But, you know, we put our all into that. And not only that, but like we're not like, let's not wait for other people to do stuff for us. Let's do it ourselves. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at the situation in Texas. Like, what are they going to do in Texas now? Is this going to happen again? It probably is. Are they going to be prepared? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, let's go take a proactive stance. That's why we have FFRP, the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program. Like I said, a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping those previously incarcerated in California's fire camps obtain gainful employment. What we do out here is we outreach to those who are currently incarcerated in California's prisons, who have experience and want to continue doing this work. We also, once they come home, operate what we call like our FFRP hub, our workers hub. We help people get fire trainings. We connect them with reentry resources like housing, general aid, mental health supports, driver's license, proof of right to work. We go out here and help them to go develop their resumes. And all of that is with the goal of helping to develop the next generation of firefighters, because we have to find these people from somewhere. I guarantee you there are thousands of people in the state of California. Prior to COVID, over 5,000 people were coming home every year from fire camp. Think about that. Prior to COVID, over 5,000 people every year were incarcerated and worked as firefighters. But every year, the governor and the head of Cal Fire go out here and say, we don't have no firefighters. You got 5,000 people every year who just came through that system. They just sitting at home, looking at TV. What if you gave them an opportunity to go change their lives and go help them out? Like, you know, one of the things I say about this job, besides being able to like help my self-esteem and figure out a way that I can go use my skill set to give back to the community, also, it really transformed my life. I got a family winning wage. I go to, you know, I remember going to career day and walking my daughter into school in my firefighter outfit, right? I remember working on these fires professionally, like talking to the dudes in the oranges who were incarcerated saying, hey bro, just so you know, I used to be incarcerated too. Like you can do that. Like that's a blessing. So we need to go figure out ways for people to go do that. And so FFRP is taking a proactive stance in that. In addition, on the environmental side, FFRP operates fire prevention, fuels reduction, and actual fire crews out here. So right now we have 8 crews of 5 people. So we have 40 people who go out here and do defensible space, clearing up areas around people's homes, post-fire cleanup. We cleaned up for the 2018 Woolsey fire. We got folks doing bike trail restoration in the Angeles. We're working with fire safe councils in the San Bernardino National Forest, and we're putting folks to work. We are literally taking people who have the experience, providing additional training and support, and like people are out here thriving because they have experience doing this work. We pay people at least $17.50 an hour, right? Homeowners are being helped out because they don't have to get citations from the fire department, or we're helping out forests to go do responsible forest thinning, right? Like we're creating job opportunities for people, and we're taking an environmental stance to help reduce the effect of wildfires. We know we're not gonna stop wildfires. That's just like a way of life. That's just gonna happen. But what we can go do is take a proactive response on that. And so that's where FFRP came in. Like, we're going to take a proactive response on the criminal justice side, and we're going to take a proactive response on the environmental side. And with our goal being able to show the state, to show the world, to show the country how we as Californians, how we as people can come together and responsibly tackle the challenges that we have while supporting other people in other communities. I'm not big to talk on politics that much, but like, and I know there's a lot of political sway around when it comes to the Green New Deal, but I support some form of environmental policy that helps create jobs for people, period. You know, if I tell people all the time, like the recidivism rate is very high. So the amount of people that are released from prison that go back to prison is very high. In California, the number averages for like every 10 people that come home, 7 people go back eventually within like the first 3 years, right? One of the main reasons is because they don't have nothing to do because they're not working. But then we go out here and go say, hey, one of the things I appreciate around, you know, previous administrations and what they're talking about, there needs to be some form of responsible forest thinning. But nobody wants to go take a stance and what that means and what that looks like. So FFRP, we decided to go take a stance. Now, one of the things I do definitely appreciate about us as Californians is, you have to excuse me, like all of us, I'm at home and my 3-year-old is tripping. One of the things I do appreciate about us as Californians is the fact that Governor Gavin Newsom passed the new law, AB 2147, right? And what that law does is basically it's an expungement on the crime that sent you to fire camp. So what that actually means is, let's say you were sent to fire camp because of let's say a burglary. The charge that sent you the charge that's a burglary can sometimes be a hindrance to people being incarcerated because that comes up on a background check form. And there are challenges with that. And so what this new law does is, this new law allows the opportunity for, if a judge has decided that you have successfully re-entered into society, you now have the opportunity to go expunge that charge. You now have the opportunity to expunge that crime from your record. And it's the first time anyone in the country has really had such a bold stance on the use of incarcerated people as laborers, especially as firefighters. I really do appreciate the Governor Newsom, excuse me, and his folks for going out there, putting in that work. Also, Senator Eloise Reyes and a couple of other people. Like they did some great work with that. And it's a step in the right direction. Does that necessarily solve everything? No, it doesn't solve all of the problems. But I really appreciated California saying that formerly incarcerated people do deserve the opportunity to go work in this space once they come home, right? And that's one of the pieces that we've been talking about. And how is this conversation so hype? Yeah, I've been in the news. FFRP is in this, you know, in all these articles. Oh, it's a little hip thing to talk about. But we decided to go be the change and go put in some work. And now people are seeing it, right? Let's go out here and go be proactive. So with that being said, my final point, like, is I would challenge you and all the folks in this call, all the folks in this thread, all the folks at Berkeley Forest, and also you all challenge, you know, all of your colleagues. You know, most of you all are going to end up being professionals in this space. Firefighters, forestry techs, timber folks, you know, consulting, environmental consulting for, you know, construction companies, ecologists, biologists, right? All this kind of stuff in this space. Like you all are those people, or you all are about to go be those people. So I would ask you, you know, knowing the challenges that we face in this sector, you know, what decision are you going to make? How are you going to be proactive? Let's not wait for anybody else to go do something about it. We are the change makers. You are a change maker. A lot of the challenges that we face, especially within this sector and within this space, within the forest, is because we've been continually waiting for somebody to tell us otherwise. Look at the situation with the redwoods, you know, and how, you know, they were using that for, you know, milling and mining. And one of the things is I understand that the forest has to be used. So I'm not arguing against, you know, one of those schools of thoughts. But like, look at, you know, the decimation of those, or look at, what do they call it in my field of work? Cheatgrass, or like the invasion of other species. You know, I remember doing a project one time when I was a forestry technician, having to restore a meadow because like the water table had gone so low because like, excuse me, like all the conifers and all the pine trees were like overcrowding it. And like, there was this endangered frog, like, and then come to find out that's just a space that like the forest just ignored for the past 60 years. Like, why don't we do something proactive? Like, let's not wait for the problems to come to us. Let's go attack the problem, right? Because we all came together and we decided to do a pledge to go maintain the forest and to go utilize the forest so that it can be used by us, so that we can also protect the land, and so that we can also keep it available for future generations to come. Like, let's go take a stance. So what will go be your stance? You know, what will you go do to help? I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do to go help? Now, you may be interested in what I'm talking about. If you are, get in contact with me. We can share, please share my contact information. You can go to our website, forestryfirerp.org. Also click donate. You can go search us out on all the social media. We got an Instagram, we got a Twitter, we got a Facebook. Also, one of the things that I wanted to mention is what makes FFRP unique is that we meet at a unique intersection of needs, right? It's very unique when it comes to FFRP because we're talking about a solution that addresses a criminal justice and an environmental problem, right? Wow. But also, as you all know, and with these seminars and with your capstone class, and I know what Berkeley Forest is teaching you, excuse me, is that there are other intersections. There are other unique aspects that aren't just strictly in my space. You know, what are you passionate about and what are you going to do about it in that aspect? You know, what does it mean to go make the forest available for those with special needs or people with disabilities? What does it mean to provide access to the forest for underprivileged, non-traditional communities, people of color? What does it mean to give equity in the forest to people of color? Matter of fact, shout out to Rue Mapp. She has an organization called Outdoor Afro. It encourages people of color to go get into the forest. She's also a Cal alum. Go Bears. There may be different access to things. Some of you all may take this and end up being like a land use planner for a county agency or a city agency, trying to decide where to take a park, where to place a park, or you're GISing, marking trees, or you're doing research on what's the new bark beetle of 2025, and whatever you go do, like take a proactive stance. Oh my gosh, the bark beetle situation. I started working professionally when that got really big. One of the reasons why it got so big, I'm gonna tell you from my point of view, is because we did nothing about it. Like we weren't thinning enough. Like we should have thinned more. I've seen whole acres, hectares. I done seen spots decimated, all of that, when we should have been cutting down the trees. But anyway, what are you going to do about it? Let's go take a proactive stance. And whatever you go choose, take a proactive stance. And how can we go help? I'm here to go work together with various communities to go support in multiple spaces. Once again, I thank the folks from Berkeley Forest for helping out. I'm going to shut up and go from there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon, so much. As I mentioned, we've already had a few comments in the chat, but we'd like to open now the chat for questions. And you can also use the raise hand function if you have a question. Katie Lowe is going to help me keep track of questions, the order in which questions come in. So go ahead and pose your questions. I will ask them to Brandon, and we can continue this conversation. But thank you, Brandon. That was really, really excellent. Don't be shy, everyone. Sometimes it takes a minute, Brandon. People are typing and getting their thoughts together.
No worries. Chill. I'm here, y'all. It's all good too.
I'll also add that I did put the link to Brandon's organization in the chat, so you all can see that. And if you do want his contact information, I can provide that as well. And here they come rolling in, Brandon. So our first question is from Rob York. And Rob is a cooperative extension specialist here at UC Berkeley. He works out of the Georgetown area. He says, great presentation. I have heard that some of the camps are being closed. The fire camps are being closed. Do you think this is a negative in terms of potential for camp alumni to get fire-related jobs?
That's an interesting question. Thank you for that. So, yes, the camps are closing. Last year, there were 46 fire camps and training centers because of COVID and early releases, which were rightfully so. CAL FIRE and CDCR had to close 8 camps. The question is an interesting one because one of the things that I do say is that while there are challenges that come with incarceration, I do feel like my experience in fire camp helped to go shape who and what I am today. Now, one of the things I think about this though is does the end justify the means? And so, like, for example, one of the things was like, there was something on the news a couple of months ago where like this dude was like, it was this CAL FIRE captain. He's like, dude, they let all of my firefighters go. Like, I don't have anybody. And it's like, damn, like, is that how you really feel? But I do think that is going to impact. One of the things that I think that has happened is it's shown the state's dependency and reliance on this group of people. And one of the things that is done is like, you place your hand out here. Like, you've shown that you've been utilizing these people and that you're really, really underprepared, right? So like, for example, like when you look at it, like last year, CAL FIRE decided to hire 900 more professional firefighters due to folks being let home from fire camp. And think about it like this, because because of FFRP, I turned down a job there, but I do know people that are doing that work. But like Cal Fire, the state is now hiring people professionally to go do the work that I used to go do. So where I say when I go out on fire and I'll go make, let's say I made, I think in 1 year I made like $500 max. I made $500 and going to fires nonstop. Now, or that's with restitution. So it's probably like $1,000 and something dollars, probably like $1,000 for that same job that was paying me $1,000. They are now paying that person $75,000 a year. That includes overtime. But for what I was getting $1,000 for, now they've hired 900 more people to go pay $70,000 a year for. Excuse me. And so one of the things is I think it shows, like I was talking about earlier, that we are taking this reactive response and not a proactive response. And I feel like we need to go find a way to go make this happen. And to answer your question additionally, I don't feel like this problem is also solely led in folks incarcerated in fire camps. I also think that there are challenges linked to this with, like I said, equity or people's access to these jobs. One of the things is firefighting is a very niche market. So like, for example, I'm from Altadena, California. The San Gabriel Mountains are in my backyard, but like I had never known about firefighting until I was incarcerated. I had never known about wildland firefighting. It took me being incarcerated to go figure that out. But like you can go get this high paying job when you're 18, but like people in South Central don't know that. People in Oakland don't know that. People in Alameda don't know that. And so there's also a thing about access. And then also I heard it was something like, like this is a real workforce development opportunity for people. You talk about folks who are displaced now because of COVID and people whose jobs have ended. I have a partnership with the unemployment office at one of these places called an AJCC, a job center, a workforce center. And you'd be amazed about like how many people, it's packed. But like, if you gave these people an opportunity and you gave them the training, like we need to go develop more firefighters, period. Now, do I think fire camp helps to go give access to people who didn't? Do I think that and know that it's the best get down that you can have while incarcerated? I do not. I'm not knocking that. But when you got a situation where folks were creating systems that really oppressed people, disproportionately oppressed people just to go get this done, it's ridiculous. My last response to you, I'm sorry, I'm really passionate about this. But when you look at the people in fire camps, okay, so firefighting is comprised of primarily white males. And that's just a fact. I don't mean anything mean by that situation. That's just a fact, the reality, right? Now, when you look at those incarcerated in fire camp, it is the exact opposite. It's people of color and it's women. The majority of Black firefighters in the state of California are people who are incarcerated. Prior to last year, the majority of women who were firefighters, which is really ridiculous, in California were people who were incarcerated. And so when you're out here creating systems to justify, as an emergency response to this situation, let's go be proactive so that we don't have to go put people in those situations. But great question. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Our next question comes from a student in the forestry capstone, Lisbeth. And Lisbeth asks, what are some of the short-term solutions that you currently advocate for or work on as part of your current work with the FFRP? And so specifically, she's asking about, your current projects and collaborations. What are you currently doing on your end, I guess?
Yeah, so we are open and we work with like a wide range of collaborators who are interested in getting work done. One of the things that's interesting is like, I don't have a shortage of work for participants. There is too much work. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the things that we believe is that like all families should have the opportunity to protect their homes from wildfires, right? One of the challenging aspects that we found is that it's not sometimes necessarily that people don't want to protect their homes from fires, but especially during this day and age, they may not have the resources to go do that. Like that could be a pretty costly thing, especially if you live in the forest, like in Big Bear or somewhere out there in like Santa Clara or something like that. Or Santa Cruz Mountains, excuse me. So one of the things is that we believe people deserve the opportunity to go do that. So like one of our thought processes was like, all right, let's go provide a low cost resource, right? So one of our things that we were blessed to start doing was, because we are a nonprofit organization that has what we call like a fee for service avenue to it, we decided to go match philanthropy dollars, right, with monies provided by private homeowners at a subsidy rate, so that, and kumbaya, we provide work for people and people get their homes protected, right? Like that's one of the innovative ways that we've taken. Also, one of the things that we believe is that like there should be opportunities to go receive like these trainings. So like FFRP, we've gotten ourselves to be like one of the an official, or what's called an official NWCG training agency. So we can throw our own fire classes, 212s, S190, 212s. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if folks are in that space, but if you already know what I'm talking about, but like we can throw our own fire classes to go provide folks more access, right? Because people in South Central, people in Compton, people in San Bernardino, Riverside, no disrespect to none of those folks. I love all of them, but like one of the things I've seen is like people have limited access to internet or access to go get into classes. How are you going to charge somebody $800 to go take all these fire trainings that they've already been trained on while incarcerated? They really just sitting there just because they already for the formality of it, and like they don't have access to go pay for that. They're just coming home. So we offer that class, those classes for free. We currently partner with fire safe councils, which are kind of like hybrid private homeowner association, kind of like hybrids, to go help their residents go do work. We partner with this group, the Mountain Rim Fire Safe Council, Inland Empire Fire Safe Council. For example, one of the things we've done is also partner with government agencies to go help them to go show how to support them to go act responsibly. I'm going to tell you a very ironic situation, but we have a contract right now with San Bernardino County's land use and fire citation departments. So anybody who's aware of the process, if you live in the mountains and they go put a citation on your home, one of the things we go do is we go help them out. We go help the homeowners out to go mitigate that issue. And so one of the things is just like we help the county out because the county doesn't have to deal with the cost of the fires if they happen. And we're still providing a work opportunity, and the police don't have to get involved, and nobody has to go get sued. So, like we just have multiple initiatives. Like we work with really with partner agencies just to go make sure that like folks can see that there are ways to go make this happen, if that answers your question. But thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. And our next question comes from Sabrina, who's another student in the class, and I think it dovetails nicely with what you've just been talking about. So you spoke about some of the issues with access to classes, both financially and just kind of the nuts and bolts of like, how good is your internet? Sabrina asks, when connecting formerly incarcerated firefighters with jobs, what challenges have you faced with stigma, and how do you deal with employers that are wary about hiring formerly incarcerated firefighters?
Right. So when it comes to stigma, I tell people this. You do not have to disclose the only people that you have to disclose your fire camp experience to is to your captain and to the hiring agency. Nobody else has to know. You can choose to go disclose if you want to, because one of the things is that like there is a little bit of bias. I mean, just knowing that like firefighting is a very tight-knit community of people who have similar characteristics and traits. You went to camp. Oh, you one of those? I mean, it's not that necessarily prevalent. And then you have people who do appreciate it. It's just a case by case. Sometimes it can hinder a person's experience. In some cases, with people who understand it can go help. I'll say and then one of the things also too is we are starting to go live in a very different world. I'm not sure if if it's really permeated into this space yet. But, you know, when I came home in 2015, a lot of people weren't necessarily talking about criminal justice reform and what that looks like, right? A lot of people's perceptions have changed around this. It's, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, it's a very intriguing, hot topic nowadays. So people are starting to have their biases changed. So one thing is bias in that aspect. Another issue when it comes to reentry is people's challenges with probation and parole. And so, you know, to go out here and be a firefighter, you need to be all risk. You need to be able to respond anywhere in the United States of America, at least in California, depending on the agency that you work for. And so when you're on probation or when you come home, when you were deemed low risk to go to fire camp, and then you come home and you on parole for 3 years, that's not happening. There's no way you can go be a firefighter for 3 years because you're on parole. Now, like I said with my story, it took me 2 years and I barely made it. I can tell you, a lot of people's hopes gonna go in the drain if you got to wait 3 years for this to happen. You know, a lot of people are talking about, you know, delayed gratification to make it happen, but honestly speaking, you're gonna have a lot of fall off when it comes to that. And then also, you know, COVID has shown us that like people have real foundational. A lot of people are fragile in their foundations, regardless of incarceration status. But being formally incarcerated is the same thing. Like, for example, we have a virtual training at 6 p.m. Pacific time today with all of our participants. We call it our weekly FFRP virtual training. Do you know, it took like about a whole month to go help these folks how to go figure out the Zoom. Folks be using they phones and they don't know how to swipe over to see multi-screen. Like, you know, people legitimately not having internet, foundational issues. Like, you know, okay, I have a work project for you out here to go make $17.50 an hour, but you know, for the first week until you go get paid, now I see you out here like doing this work and everybody else is eating and you don't have lunch. So like one of the things we started doing was like instituting lunch for everybody until they got a paycheck so that everybody can have food security. You know, people have transportation issues, you know, driver's licenses, proof of right to work. You know, there's a lot of challenges that come with it. And one part of it is re-entering into society. A second, and the other part is just like people's access to probation and parole. And then lastly, and I mean no offense by this, but as a professional firefighter, I will tell you that our world, our professional firefighter world is very tight knit. It's really about who you know and how. You know, when you think about wildland firefighting, when you think about this work, a lot of people bring up, you know, public safety, integrity. You know, it's a public safety job. I tell people all the time, I did a whole 180. I went from being looked upon as a public nuisance to a public safety officer, right? In what world does that happen normally, right? So there's a whole challenge in that. And so because of that, like a lot of people just don't have access to these things. Like a lot of people don't know what it is to go be a wildland firefighter. I'll give you a perfect example. The Angeles National Forest, that's in LA, in 1995 with Maxine Waters, they did a trial project where they started a fire crew in South Central Los Angeles with Bloods and Crips. They called them the Highlanders. I believe it worked for like 2 or 3 years, and then the forest decided to stop because, I mean, and it's no offense to the forest, but the U.S. National Forest is not a social or like a social service organization. They don't know how to deal with, you know, poverty and drug challenges and gang banging, right? So the forest said like, no, we're not doing that no more. And like, for example, like I can go to Crenshaw High School right now. I can go to some urban high school and be like, hey, have you ever heard about being a wildland firefighter? So many people will say no. One of the inherent things that's happening too is even though FFRP is out here directly focused on helping those previously incarcerated, you know what's interesting? A growing number of people are interested in FFRP who have never been formally incarcerated because they're like, you know what? I want to go do this. You have access to this space. I never knew about this. How can I go do this, right? And so it's a thing about access. Like when you talk about, so like, for example, let's say you go get a job with the forest in 5-6 years. Next thing you know, you're the hiring manager. How do you go make sure other communities know about this this opportunity announcement, this job announcement, right? How do you go make sure that you go, you know, when you think about, like, in my line of work, they have like explorer programs, like firefighter explorer programs, police explorer programs. For first responders, it's like, hey, you want to go be a police? Well, come practice in high school. But like, they don't have that in urban communities for you know, when it comes to our sector. So if you're the hiring director, knowing that's a challenge, don't sit out here and say, well, why is it that we don't have no diversity? Or why is it we keep getting the same type of people? Look at the situation and figure out how you can go and reach to other communities to go increase representation so that the workforce can be true to what you're talking about. Sorry, y'all, and I get passionate about this. I really love and appreciate all y'all. Go Bears! This is great questions. Don't worry, that's who I am. This means a lot to me.
I think we all are, I'll speak on behalf of everyone. We are all very appreciative of your passion. It makes the talk very exciting to listen to. Before I go to the next question, I did want to, so fairly soon here, we're going to close the meeting to only have our forestry capstone students. And in our queue is all questions from our forestry capstone students. So I wanted to give one last chance to anyone who is not a student in the forestry capstone class to ask a question before we give you all the boot and continue this with just the forestry capstone class members. We did have a few comments too, Brandon, just high praise from a gentleman, Jim Brashears, with the, what did he say? He's with a fire safe organization, Butte County Fire Safe Council. Just really echoing a lot of what you've said here today, really feeling like your comments are right on the money. You know, hoping that we can continue to draw on this resource of trained personnel. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions from non-students in the chat. So everyone in the forestry capstone class and Brandon, stay put. Everyone else, thank you very much for coming this evening. We hope you enjoyed the seminar tonight and Brandon's talk. And for you all, a quick round of applause for, a virtual round of applause for Brandon.
I just want to say thank you all. Really appreciate you. Feel free to get in contact with me. I love putting in work together.